Take a breath, not a polite breath, a real one. Let your chest rise, hold it for a moment, and release it slowly. Feel the weight of your body in whatever seat or space holds you right now. Good. Because before we go any further, before I say a single word about reality, consciousness, or the nature of the universe, I need you to notice something remarkable that has already happened, something so extraordinary that most people walk right past it without blinking. You are here, right now, in this exact moment, listening to these exact words. Do you understand what had to happen for this moment to exist? Think about it carefully. You were born in a specific city, in a specific year, to specific parents, with a specific set of experiences layered one on top of another across every single day of your life. Every choice you ever made, every yes, every no, every moment you turned left instead of right, brought you here, to this precise intersection of time, space, and sound. And somewhere, someone recorded these words. They had their own chain of events, their own life, their own questions, their own sleepless nights and sudden insights. And through a technology that would have looked like divine magic to anyone born even 2 centuries ago, their voice has traveled across invisible electromagnetic waves and arrived inside your ears at this specific moment. The odds of this convergence are, mathematically, almost impossible to calculate. And yet here you are. Now you can explain this away. You can say, coincidence, algorithm, random chance. And that explanation will satisfy the logical, bill-paying, list-making part of your mind that wants everything to fit in a box with a label on it. But there is another part of you, quieter, deeper, older, that already suspects something else is happening. That part is right. This audiobook is not a collection of interesting ideas to nod along to. It is not spiritual entertainment. It is a precise intervention in your life, delivered at the exact moment your soul has been asking for it, even if you didn't know you were asking. By the time we reach the end of this journey together, you will never see your life the same way again. Not because I will convince you of anything, but because I will remind you of what you already know and have spent years trying to forget. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Ocean You Swim. Understanding energy and vibration. Here is the first thing you need to understand about reality. Nothing in it is solid. I know. Your chair feels solid. Your hands feel solid. The walls around you feel solid. But this is one of the greatest optical illusions in the history of human perception. If you were to take any object in your physical world, your phone, your hand, a stone from the garden, and magnify it beyond what any microscope currently built can achieve, you would discover the same extraordinary thing every time. At the subatomic level, matter dissolves. What appeared to be solid becomes mostly empty space, with tiny packets of energy vibrating at almost incomprehensible speeds. You are not a solid object moving through a solid world. You are a field of vibrating energy moving through other fields of vibrating energy. This is not poetry. This is physics. And once you truly absorb this fact, not intellectually, but in your bones, everything changes. Because if everything is energy, then the most important question you can ask about your life is not, what am I doing, but what am I vibrating? Now vibration has a language. We call it frequency, and frequency has a law. It is one of the most elegant and ruthless laws in the universe. Like attracts like, not like thinks like. Not like wants like. Like is like, at the energetic level. Imagine 2 tuning forks in a room. Strike one and hold it near the other. Even without touching the second fork, it will begin to hum. The vibration travels through the air and activates its twin. This is called sympathetic resonance. And it happens everywhere, at every scale, including inside your life. The people who appear in your world are tuning forks vibrating at frequencies compatible with yours. The opportunities you notice or fail to notice are frequencies your internal antenna is or isn't tuned to receive. The circumstances that seem to find you, whether wonderful or devastating, are the universe's way of handing you a mirror and saying, "This is what you sound like right now." But here is where most people stop. They hear you attract what you vibrate, and they immediately feel blamed. As if someone is pointing a finger at their pain and saying, "You did this to yourself." That is not what this teaching means. Not even close. Think instead of a radio tower. A radio tower doesn't choose its broadcast. It simply transmits whatever signal is fed into it. If you feed it music, it broadcasts music. If you feed it static, it broadcasts static. The tower itself has no opinion. It is not good or bad. It simply transmits. You are a tower. Your thoughts, your emotions, your subconscious beliefs, your unhealed wounds, your quiet joys, and your secret fears. All of this is being fed into your tower every moment of every day. And the universe, which is an infinite ocean of all possible frequencies, responds to your broadcast by sending back what matches. The question is not whether you are broadcasting. You always are. The question is, do you know what you're transmitting? Most people don't. Most people are broadcasting on frequencies they inherited from their parents, their culture, their early experiences. Frequencies they never consciously chose and have never consciously examined. They are living in a story written by someone else, and then wondering why the chapters keep repeating. This is the fundamental problem, and it points toward the fundamental solution. You cannot change your life by rearranging the furniture. You can only change your life by changing the signal. Let's talk about how. Your vibration is not made of thoughts alone. In fact, thoughts are among the weaker signals you broadcast. Far more powerful are your emotions, especially the emotions you feel most consistently, most automatically, without even noticing them. The low-grade anxiety that hums in your chest when you wake up. The quiet feeling of being not quite enough that sits beneath your smile at social gatherings. The subtle, persistent sense that things could fall apart at any moment. These emotional frequencies are broadcasting loudly. They are sending precise instructions to the universe about what to reflect back into your experience. The first step toward changing your signal is developing what we might call emotional literacy. The ability to sit still long enough to honestly ask, what am I actually feeling beneath the surface? Not what you think you feel, not what you wish you felt. What you actually feel. This requires a kind of courageous honesty that most people spend enormous energy avoiding. Because once you know what you're actually feeling, you become responsible for it. You can no longer blame the weather, the economy, your mother, or the government for the texture of your inner life. But that responsibility, uncomfortable as it is the most liberating thing you will ever claim. Because if you are the source of the signal, you can change the signal. And if you can change the signal, you can change the world that signal is creating. We will come back to exactly how to do this throughout this journey. For now, let the idea settle. Let it move around inside you. Notice where it creates resistance. That resistance is important information. And notice where it creates the faintest flicker of excitement. That flicker is the part of you that already knows this is true. He wants it covered, floor to ceiling, in the finest mirrors ever made. When the room is complete, the king enters. He is surrounded by 1,000 reflections of himself, stretching into apparent infinity in every direction. Then a dog wanders into the room. The dog sees 1,000 dogs. It growls. The 1,000 reflections growl back. Terrified, the dog barks, whimpers, and runs in circles until it collapses from exhaustion, defeated by its own reflection. The next day, a child enters the same room. The child sees 1,000 children. It laughs. The 1,000 reflections laugh back. The child dances and is surrounded by dancers. It reaches out to touch a mirror and is met with 1,000 reaching hands. Same room, same mirrors. Entirely different experience. Your life is that room. The mirror doesn't care what it reflects. It has no preference. It has no agenda. It simply and perfectly returns to you what you bring into it. Now here is where this teaching becomes both uncomfortable and extraordinarily empowering. The mirror doesn't just reflect what you consciously bring in. It reflects everything, including and especially the things you have not looked at, the beliefs you hold without knowing you hold them, the stories running in the background of your mind, like an old computer program you forgot to close. In modern psychology, these background programs are called the unconscious. In ancient traditions, they were called shadows. The name doesn't matter. What matters is understanding that they exist, that they are powerful, and that they are actively shaping your experience of reality every single day. Here is a practical example. Imagine someone, let's call him Marco, who consciously believes he deserves love and connection. He wants a deep, lasting relationship. He goes on dates. He says all the right things. He is, by most accounts, a good person. But Marco had a father who was emotionally unavailable. Marco learned at a very young age and in a very deep place that love is conditional. That people who are supposed to care for you will eventually leave or withdraw. This belief was never spoken aloud. It was never consciously formed. It was absorbed, the way children absorb everything, through experience. So Marco enters his adult life carrying two signals simultaneously. His conscious signal, I want love. His unconscious signal, love, leads to abandonment. Which signal does the mirror reflect? Both. But the unconscious signal is far more powerful because it carries far more emotional charge. The mirror sees the deeper broadcast and consistently delivers people who confirm Marco's subconscious belief. People who are emotionally unavailable, who eventually pull away, who repeat the earliest pattern he experienced. Marco doesn't understand why this keeps happening. He feels cursed. He thinks there is something wrong with him, or with the world, or with love itself. But nothing is wrong. The mirror is working perfectly. The solution is not to find better people. The solution is to heal the original wound, to go back to that young version of Marco who learned that love leads to abandonment, and gently, compassionately show him that was one person. That was one moment. That is not the law of the universe. That is not what you are. When Marco heals that wound, when he genuinely, at the cellular level, begins to feel worthy of consistent love, the mirror shifts. New people begin to appear. Old patterns dissolve. The external world reorganizes around the new internal signal. This is not wishful thinking. This is how consciousness works. The implication is significant. Every recurring pattern in your life, in your relationships, your finances, your health, your career, is a message from the mirror. It is the universe showing you, with extraordinary patience and precision, the signal you are broadcasting from the deepest levels of your being. The question is not, why does this keep happening to me? The question is, what belief am I broadcasting that keeps creating this? And then, more importantly, what would I need to heal or release or choose in order to broadcast something different? This is the work. not the work of rearranging circumstances, the work of changing consciousness. And it is the most profound, most rewarding, and most transformative work a human being can do. It has never been silent. It speaks constantly, fluently, and with extraordinary creativity. The problem is not that the cosmos is failing to communicate with you. The problem is that you have forgotten the language. And to be fair, it is easy to forget. We live in a world that is aggressively loud. Notifications, news cycles, social feeds, ambient music in every shop, advertisements competing for every square inch of your visual field. We have constructed a civilization that makes contemplative silence nearly impossible, and in doing so, we have made ourselves deaf to the most important conversations that are happening around us all the time. Synchronicities are the universe's way of breaking through the noise. The word was coined by the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Gustav Jung, who spent decades studying the phenomenon of meaningful coincidences. Events that have no logical causal connection but carry undeniable personal significance for the person experiencing them. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in 3 years. Your phone rings. It's them. You are wrestling with a major life decision, and you open a book randomly to a page that seems to speak directly to your exact question. You are walking through a city feeling utterly lost, not geographically, but existentially. And you look up and see, on a billboard or a passing truck or scrawled on a wall, the exact phrase that cuts through your confusion like a blade. These are not coincidences in the dismissive sense. These are the universe speaking in its native tongue, the language of meaningful event. But why does it work this way? Why doesn't the universe simply send a text message? Why the elaborate choreography of seemingly random events? Because the universe operates through consciousness, and consciousness communicates through pattern and meaning, not through linear language. Think of how your own unconscious mind communicates with you. It doesn't send memos. It sends dreams, rich, symbolic, emotionally charged narratives that require interpretation, that speak sideways to the thing they're actually about. Your unconscious uses the language of metaphor, because metaphor bypasses the analytical, skeptical gatekeeper of the conscious mind and reaches something deeper. Synchronicities work the same way. They bypass your analytical filter and arrive as experiences, as feeling, before you have a chance to explain them away. Here is what is actually happening at the energetic level when you are in a state of genuine seeking, not anxious grasping, but authentic, open-hearted questioning. You emit a very specific frequency. Call it the frequency of inquiry. And because the universe operates on resonance, it responds by organizing events, encounters, and moments that vibrate at the complementary frequency, the frequency of answer. The answer doesn't always look like you expect. It rarely arrives in a straight line. But if you are paying attention, if you have cultivated what we might call perceptual openness, you begin to notice the patterns. You begin to feel the difference between a random event and a meaningful one. You develop what some traditions call discernment, the ability to distinguish the signal from the noise. Now let's talk about the most common form of synchronistic communication, repeated symbols and numbers. You look at your clock and it reads 11,007. You look again later and it's 3,033. You see the same number on a license plate, a receipt, and a street sign within the same afternoon. Are these messages? Or is it simply your brain's pattern recognition system doing what it does, selecting certain data points from an ocean of sensory input and weaving them into a story? The honest answer is, it can be both. And the distinction matters. Here is the key. Pay attention not to the number itself, but to the moment in which it appears and to how you feel when you see it. If you see 11,011 and feel a subtle electric recognition, as if something just clicked into place, as if the universe winked at you. Pay attention to what you were thinking in the moment before you saw it. Because that thought, or that emotional state, is what the universe is drawing your attention to. The number is not the message. The number is a finger pointing at the message. If you see 11,011 and feel nothing, or feel a compulsion to immediately assign it meaning from a list you read online, that is your analytical mind trying to force significance where there may be none. Let it go. The real signals don't need to be chased. They arrive with their own felt sense of importance. The rule of 3 is your most reliable filter. The universe, when it genuinely wants your attention, is not subtle about it. If something is a real signal, it will appear again from an unrelated source within a short period of time. First occurrence, interesting. Second occurrence, notable. Third occurrence, pay very close attention. Take action. Beyond numbers, the universe speaks through people, through overheard fragments of conversation that seem directed at you, through strangers who say exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment, through the words of a song that begin playing the moment you most need to hear them. These are not accidents. They are the universe using every available channel to maintain its ongoing conversation with you. Your only job is to become a better listener. Chapter 4. The Web of Souls. Relationships, Contracts, and the Invisible Threads. You did not meet the people in your life by accident. I know that is a large claim. But follow the logic, and you will find it holds. If everything is energy, and energy operates through resonance, then the people who enter your life, who are drawn past the billions of other humans on this planet to intersect with your specific path, are drawn there by frequency, by compatibility, by a kind of energetic magnetism that operates far below the level of conscious intention. Some spiritual traditions describe this as soul contracts, agreements made before physical incarnation between souls who will serve specific roles in each other's development. This is a beautiful metaphor, and like all good metaphors, it points at something real, even if the literal version is unprovable. The practical truth is this: every significant relationship in your life is serving a purpose, even the painful ones. Especially the painful ones. The person who broke your heart did not appear in your life to destroy you. They appeared in your life because you were broadcasting a signal they were perfectly tuned to receive. And they arrived carrying exactly the wound, the lesson, the mirror you most needed, even if needed is the last word you would have chosen in the depths of your grief. This is not a justification for harm. Some people behave destructively. Some relationships are genuinely toxic and must be ended. The teaching here is not to tolerate abuse in the name of spiritual lessons. The teaching is to ask, after the fact, what was being shown. What did this relationship reveal about what I believe about myself? What pattern does this continue, or, if I was lucky, finally break? What did I learn about love, about worth, about boundaries, about the difference between what I want and what I settle for? When you ask these questions honestly and sit with the answers, you discover that every relationship, however painful, has been precisely calibrated to accelerate your growth. The universe is an extraordinarily efficient teacher. It sends exactly the experiences necessary to teach the lessons your soul came to learn, not the lessons you want to learn, the ones you need. And here is the most confronting aspect of this. The lessons repeat until they are learned. You will recognize this if you are honest with yourself. The same type of difficult person keeps appearing in your life, wearing different faces but running the same essential program. The critical partner becomes the critical boss, becomes the critical friend. The unreliable lover becomes the unreliable business partner. The person who takes without giving, who shines and then disappears, who promises and then withdraws. Different actors. Same role. This is not because you are unlucky. This is because you are still broadcasting the frequency that calls these specific experiences into being, and you will continue to broadcast it until you do the work of genuinely transforming the underlying belief. When you genuinely change, when you heal the wound that has been running the broadcast, the pattern dissolves. New people appear. Old relationships either transform or naturally fade. The invisible web reorganizes around your new frequency. There is something else worth understanding about relationships, the phenomenon of instant recognition. You have experienced this. You meet someone for the first time and feel, with bewildering certainty, that you know them. There is no discomfort, no need to perform, no awkward social navigation. It is like putting on a coat that fits perfectly, one you feel you have worn before. This recognition is real. It is the energetic equivalent of two instruments discovering they are tuned to the same key. Whether you believe this is because you have known this soul in previous lifetimes, or simply because your frequencies are exceptionally compatible, the experience of recognition is genuine and worth paying attention to. These people, your soul family, are not just pleasant company. They are catalysts. When you are in their presence, your own signal amplifies, your clarity increases, your growth accelerates. This is why finding your tribe is not a luxury. It is a spiritual necessity. And finding your tribe requires, above all, one thing: authenticity. You cannot attract your true people while wearing a mask. If you are performing a version of yourself designed to be palatable, acceptable, safe, you will attract people who resonate with the performance. And those relationships will always feel hollow because they are connecting with something that isn't really you. The moment you begin to genuinely, courageously, unapologetically show up as who you actually are, with your real thoughts, your genuine interests, your authentic values, your true people begin to appear. They have been out there all along, unable to find you because your signal was disguised. Take off the mask. Turn on the signal. Your tribe is already listening. Chapter 5. The Creative Word. How language shapes reality. Words are not just sounds. They are not just symbols we use to point at things that already exist. Words are generative. They are creative. They are among the most powerful forces available to a human being, and the vast majority of people wield them with the careless abandon of a child playing with matches. Every language in the ancient world understood this. The Hebrew word dabar means both word and event. The ancient scribes saw no distinction between speaking and creating. The Sanskrit concept of nada Brahma means the world is sound, not metaphorically, but as a description of fundamental reality. In the Gospel of John, the entire cosmos begins with the Word. These traditions are pointing at something the modern world has almost entirely forgotten: that language is a technology of creation, not merely description. And nowhere is this more powerfully demonstrated than in the way you talk about yourself. Listen to yourself today. Actually listen, as if you are an observer eavesdropping on a stranger. Pay attention to the statements you make about your own identity, your own capabilities, your own future. I am always tired. I never have enough money. I am terrible with technology. I always choose the wrong people. I can't lose weight. I am just not that creative. Things always go wrong for me. These are not observations. These are instructions. Every time you say "I am," followed by a limitation, you are issuing a command to the most sophisticated creative apparatus in the known universe, your own consciousness. And your consciousness, which cannot distinguish between what you mean and what you say, dutifully sets about organizing your experience to confirm your declaration. You said you are terrible with technology. So your brain filters out the moments when you navigate technology successfully and highlights the moments when you struggle. You said things always go wrong for you. So your reticular activating system, the brain's built-in filter, prioritizes evidence of things going wrong and deprioritizes evidence of things going right. The declaration becomes the lens. The lens shapes the perception. The perception confirms the declaration. The loop is closed. This is not woo-woo mysticism. This is cognitive science. This is neurology. Your brain is a confirmation machine. It will find evidence for whatever story you tell it. Tell it a story of limitation, and it will curate a reality of limitation. Tell it a story of possibility, and it will begin to notice possibilities that were invisible before. Now let's talk about the second great misuse of language, complaint. Complaint is seductive. It feels good in a perverse way to complain. It connects us with others through shared grievance. It provides a temporary sense of relief, as if by naming the problem we have done something about it. And in small, infrequent doses, honest expression of difficulty is healthy and necessary. But chronic complaint is something different. Chronic complaint is a declaration of powerlessness. It is the voice of someone who has decided, perhaps unconsciously, perhaps long ago, that the world is happening to them, that they are the effect and not the cause, that their role in this universe is to endure rather than to create. And because reality is a mirror, the universe responds to chronic complaint with more situations worth complaining about. Here is the experiment. Go 1 full week without a single complaint. Not suppressing your awareness of difficulties. You can notice things without announcing them. But commit to not voicing a single complaint about your circumstances, your body, your relationships, your finances, or the weather. This will feel almost impossible at first. You will discover how much of your habitual language is complaint you didn't even register as complaint. But as the days progress, something remarkable happens. The energy that was leaking through the faucet of complaint begins to accumulate. You begin to feel more resourceful. Solutions begin to appear that were previously invisible. Your interactions with others improve because you are no longer adding the weight of negativity to every conversation. And then there is the practice of conscious declaration. Begin to speak about your life as you intend it to be, not as it currently appears, not as a lie. You are not denying present reality. You are choosing consciously and deliberately to direct your creative power toward the reality you are building, rather than continuously reinforcing the reality you are trying to leave. Speak in the present tense. Not, I will be healthy, that places health in an unreachable future. I am in the process of becoming deeply healthy. My body knows how to heal, and I support that process every day. Feel the difference in your body as you say those two things. The first is a wish. The second is a direction. Gratitude is the most powerful form of creative language available to you. Not performative gratitude, not saying thank you because you have been told it's good for you. Genuine, felt gratitude, the visceral recognition that your life, right now, contains beauty and gift and grace, even amid the difficulty. When you are genuinely grateful, you are broadcasting a signal that says, abundance is real, good things exist, more is coming. And the universe, which can only confirm your signal, begins to organize your experience, to give you more to be genuinely grateful for. This is the creative loop at its most beautiful. Gratitude generates more gratitude. Love generates more love. Not because the universe is rewarding you for good behavior, but because you are tuning to the frequency of abundance, and the frequency of abundance is all around you, all the time, waiting to be received. Chapter 6. Collapsing Time. The quantum nature of destiny. Everything you want already exists, not in the future. Right now, in this moment. in a version of reality that exists simultaneously alongside the one you are currently experiencing. I understand this sounds like science fiction, but stay with me, because quantum physics has been pointing at exactly this for over a century, and it has profound practical implications for how you approach your goals and your future. The standard model of reality that most of us operate from is linear. There is a past, a present, and a future. Time moves in one direction. To get from where you are to where you want to be, you must travel the distance between them, step by step, in the correct sequence. This model produces a very specific psychological state, waiting. And waiting is perhaps the single most powerful way to guarantee that what you want never arrives. Here is why. When you are in a state of waiting, you are implicitly confirming that what you desire is not yet present. You are broadcasting the frequency of absence, and the universe, which reflects your broadcast, continues to deliver the experience of absence. The alternative, the quantum alternative, is to collapse the distance. In quantum mechanics, there is a phenomenon called superposition. A particle exists in multiple states simultaneously until the moment of observation, when it collapses into a single definite state. The observer doesn't passively record which state the particle is in. The observer's act of observation actually determines which state the particle occupies. Your life works analogously. Multiple versions of your future exist simultaneously right now. Versions where you have achieved what you desire and versions where you haven't. Your consciousness, through the quality of your attention and the frequency of your dominant emotional state, is continuously observing these possibilities into reality. The future you most consistently, most emotionally, most viscerally inhabit in your imagination is the one that your consciousness is collapsing into actual experience. This is why visualization is not just a motivational trick. Done correctly, done with full sensory immersion, full emotional engagement, full felt sense of the experience being already real. Visualization is a quantum act. It is the collapse of a possible future into a probable one. Here is the crucial distinction most people miss. Visualization does not mean picturing what you want from the outside, like watching a movie. It means experiencing it from the inside, being in the scenario, feeling the emotions of having arrived, sensing the texture of the reality as if it is already your present. When your subconscious mind experiences an imagined reality with sufficient intensity, it cannot distinguish it from actual experience. Neurologically, the same pathways fire, the same chemical cascades occur. And because your subconscious mind is the engine that directs your behavior, your perception, and your energetic broadcast, convincing it that your desired reality is already true, sets in motion an extraordinary series of events. Your behavior shifts, subtly and automatically, to align with the identity of the person who has already achieved what you desire. Your perception shifts to notice opportunities that were always there, but previously invisible. Your energetic broadcast shifts, and the people and circumstances that resonate with your new frequency begin to appear. Time collapses, not because the universe bends the laws of physics for you, but because you have stopped insisting on traveling the long road and have found the quantum shortcut, the direct route from consciousness to reality that bypasses the need for years of gradual accumulation. None of this means action is unnecessary. Action is essential. But the quality and direction of action changes dramatically when it comes from a state of already having rather than not yet having. Action from abundance is inspired, energized, clear. Action from lack is anxious, scattered, exhausting. Do the inner work first. Let the outer action flow from that. Transformation when everything goes wrong. You have been doing the work. You have been changing your signal, shifting your thoughts, practicing gratitude, holding your vision. And then, just as something real begins to shift, just as the new reality begins to crystallize, a wall appears. The job you were counting on falls through. The relationship you were healing collapses. Your health stumbles. Your finances take an unexpected hit. Every external circumstance seems to conspire to push you back to where you started. This is the guardian. In mythology, every threshold, every passage from one stage of being to the next is guarded. In Greek myth, Cerberus guards the underworld. In Arthurian legend, the knight must face a series of increasingly terrifying tests before reaching the Grail. In almost every indigenous tradition, initiation involves a period of intense ordeal before the candidate is welcomed into their new identity. These stories are not decorative. They are maps. They are describing something real about the structure of transformation. The guardian is not your enemy. The guardian is a test of seriousness. It is the universe asking, do you actually want this, or do you want the idea of it? Because the idea of transformation is comfortable. The actual process is not. The guardian manifests differently for everyone, but its essence is always the same. It is the sudden intensification of everything you were trying to move away from. It is resistance. It is the old life fighting for its survival. Because here is something important to understand. Your old identity, the patterns, the beliefs, the habitual ways of being that have defined you, does not want to die. It is not evil. It is simply self-preserving, the way all living systems are. And when it senses that you are genuinely committed to changing, it mounts its most ferocious defense. This defense takes many forms. It takes the form of the internal critic, who suddenly becomes louder and more specific in its attacks. It takes the form of the saboteur, the part of you that spends extra money just as you were getting ahead, or picks a fight with the partner you were making progress with, or falls ill on the day of the important opportunity. It takes the form of the external environment, friends and family who begin to express concern, or disapproval, or gentle mockery. People who love you and are unconsciously trying to keep you manageable, predictable, familiar. The question at the threshold is not, how do I make this obstacle go away? The question is, am I willing to keep moving, even while the ground is shaking? Because the obstacle is not a stop sign. It is a test of commitment, and the only way through it is through it. The moment you keep walking, the moment you refuse to turn back, even with fear singing loud in your chest, is the moment the guardian steps aside. Every single time. This is not because the universe rewards stubbornness. It is because the act of walking through fear is itself a frequency shift. It is the moment you broadcast, I am no longer the person who stops here. I am the person who keeps going. And the universe, which has been waiting for this precise broadcast, reorganizes accordingly. Feel the fear. Acknowledge it. Even thank it. It means you are trying something new. And then take the next step anyway. Chapter I'd, the voice beneath the noise, reclaiming your intuition. There is a voice that has been trying to reach you your entire life. It is not the voice that argues, not the one that lists pros and cons, calculates risks, anticipates judgment, or rehearses conversations. That voice is your analytical mind, and it has its place. But it is not the voice we are speaking about. The voice we are speaking about is quieter. It doesn't use sentences. It speaks in sensation, in knowing, in the sudden and inexplicable certainty that lands in your chest before you have had time to think. You know this voice. You have felt it. You may have called it a gut feeling, a hunch, a sudden knowing. You may have followed it and been grateful. You may have ignored it and paid the price. This is intuition, and it is not mystical vagueness. It is the most sophisticated information processing system available to human consciousness. Your conscious mind, as capable as it is, processes information at a rate of roughly 40 to 50 bits per second. This is the part of you that reads, analyzes, plans, and argues. Your subconscious mind, the vast, largely unexplored continent beneath the visible tip of your awareness, processes information at millions of times that rate. It is constantly scanning the environment for microsignals, the subtle shift in someone's breathing pattern that signals they are lying, the almost imperceptible change in air pressure that precedes a shift in weather, the pattern in a situation that exactly matches 1,000 previous situations from which it has extracted a lesson. All of this processing happens below your conscious awareness. And then the subconscious delivers its conclusion, its synthesis of millions of pieces of information, in the form of a feeling. That feeling is intuition. When you dismiss it because it isn't logical, when you override the tug in your gut because you cannot justify it in a sentence, you are not being rational. You are ignoring the most sophisticated analytical instrument you possess in favor of a far slower and more limited one. The tragedy is that we have been trained to do exactly this. We live in a culture that worships the analytical mind and is deeply suspicious of felt knowing. From childhood, we are rewarded for logical argument and penalized for trusting what we sense but cannot prove. By the time we reach adulthood, most of us have buried our intuition under such thick layers of rational override that we can barely hear it at all. The path back to intuition begins with stillness, not the performed stillness of sitting cross-legged and trying to think about nothing. Real stillness, the kind that happens when you genuinely stop filling every moment with input and allow the natural quiet of your own consciousness to emerge. This is deeply uncomfortable at first. The noise of your habitual thoughts, the pull of your phone, the restlessness of a mind trained to always be doing something, all of this resists stillness. Let it resist. Stay anyway. In the gaps between thoughts, the intuitive voice becomes audible. And as you practice, as you build the muscle of inner listening, you will find it easier and easier to distinguish between the voice of fear and the voice of knowing. Fear is loud, anxious, and circular. It tells the same stories on repeat. It is urgent and claustrophobic. Intuition is quiet, clear, and spacious. It does not argue. It does not justify. It simply knows. And when it speaks, even in defiance of all logic, there is a quality of settled rightness to what it says that you cannot manufacture with your rational mind. Practice following small intuitions first. The impulse to take a different route home. The sense that you should call someone you haven't thought of in a while. The feeling that you should say yes to something unexpected, or no to something expected. Notice what happens. Keep track. Over time, you will build a body of evidence that your intuition is extraordinarily reliable. More reliable in high-stakes situations than the anxious calculations of your analytical mind. And as your trust grows, you will begin to access a level of navigation that feels almost magical, because you are moving through your life guided not just by what you can see and calculate, but by what your entire being, in contact with the intelligence of the universe, can sense. This is what it means to be truly guided. Not by external authority, not by other people's opinions, not by the logic of what is expected, but by the deep, quiet, certain knowing that lives at the center of your own being. Why am I here? Not in the general philosophical sense of why does anything exist, but personally, specifically, why am I here? What is the contribution that only I can make? What is the gift that arrived in this world on the day I was born and will leave it on the day I die? The specific, irreplaceable, unrepeatable gift of my particular consciousness. This question is not indulgent. It is not navel-gazing. It is the most practically important question you can ask, because without an answer to it, without a genuine, lived sense of purpose, all the success in the world will feel hollow. We see this everywhere. People who achieve every marker of success the culture has told them to pursue: wealth, status, recognition, beauty, and arrive at the summit to find it curiously empty. Not because success is meaningless, but because they were climbing the wrong mountain. Because the mountain they climbed was defined by someone else's values, not their own deepest truth. Purpose is not something you find, it is something you remember. It was there before the world told you who to be. It was alive in you as a child, before you were taught to edit yourself, to manage your enthusiasms, to make yourself acceptable. It shows up in what has always made you come alive. Not what you think you should care about, but what you have always, inexplicably, genuinely cared about. Think back. Before you had to be practical, before there were bills and expectations and the weight of other people's opinions. What did you love? What would you do for hours without anyone asking you to, without reward, simply because it felt like you? What problems in the world made you angry enough to want to do something about them? What beauty in the world made you want to contribute to it? These are not arbitrary preferences. They are signals. They are the architecture of your purpose, encoded in the specific design of your personality, your passions, your wounds, and your gifts. Yes, your wounds. Because one of the most profound discoveries waiting for anyone who undertakes genuine self-examination is this: the place where you have suffered most is often the place where you have the most to offer. The person who overcame crippling self-doubt has a depth of understanding about confidence that someone who has always been naturally assured simply doesn't have. The person who navigated poverty understands viscerally what it costs and what it teaches, in a way that cannot be learned from a book. The person who struggled for years with illness understands the body's signals, the healthcare system, the isolation of suffering, in ways that can be profoundly useful to others still in that experience. Your wound is not a disqualification. Transformed, it becomes your credential. This transformation from wound to gift, from suffering to service, is one of the most alchemical processes available to a human being, and it requires nothing more than the willingness to stop treating your past as a prison and to start treating it as a map. Where have you been? That is where others are waiting for someone who has come from there to show them the way forward. Purpose, ultimately, is not about you. It is about what moves through you, the specific quality of contribution that your unique combination of experience, talent, passion, and perspective makes possible. Your job is not to design your purpose from scratch. Your job is to get quiet enough, honest enough, and brave enough to listen to what your life has already been trying to tell you, and then to show up for it. Not perfectly, not grandly, not necessarily in a way that earns you applause or leaves a monument, but genuinely, consistently, in the way that only you can. That is purpose. And living it, fully, authentically, in whatever form it takes, is the deepest fulfillment available to a human life. Chapter 10. The Eternal Now. Living in the only moment that exists. We have traveled a long distance together. We have talked about energy and resonance, about mirrors and reflections, about signs and synchronicities, about the invisible web of relationships, about the power of language, about the quantum nature of time, about fear and the guardian, about intuition, about purpose. All of it has been pointing at the same place. Here, this moment, right now. Not the future you are trying to create, not the past you are trying to release. This exact moment with its specific quality of light and sensation and presence. Because here is the truth that underlies everything we have discussed. The only moment in which any of it is real is this one. The law of resonance operates now. The mirror reflects now. The signs appear now. The intuition speaks now. The purpose is expressed now. The frequency you are broadcasting, the one that is creating your experience of reality, you are broadcasting it right now, not in some future meditation session, not after you have figured everything out, right now. And this means something liberating. You do not need to wait until you have healed everything. You do not need to wait until you understand everything. You do not need to reach some future state of perfection before you begin to participate consciously in the creation of your life. You begin here, with whatever clarity you have, with whatever courage is available to you in this moment. That is enough. It has always been enough. The great spiritual traditions of the world, despite their extraordinary diversity, converge on this single point. The present moment is not a stepping stone to somewhere else. It is the destination. It is the only place where life actually happens, where love is actually felt, where meaning is actually experienced. The future is a concept. The past is a memory. The eternal now is the only reality. And in the eternal now, you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not too much or too little. You are exactly, precisely, completely here, which means you are exactly where the work of your life is waiting to be done. Here is your invitation as we come to the end of this journey. Don't return to your life trying to implement a system. Systems are useful, but they belong to the analytical mind, and the analytical mind will find 100 reasons to delay, revise, and ultimately return to the familiar. Instead, return to your life with one simple commitment: to pay attention. Pay attention to what you are broadcasting, to how your body feels in different environments and interactions, to what lights you up and what drains you, to the patterns that keep repeating, to the signs that keep appearing, to the voice beneath the noise, to the moments of recognition that tell you this is the direction. And when you notice, and you will, because this kind of attention is self-reinforcing, it grows the more you practice it. Respond. Not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent choices aligned with the reality you are creating. Change one word in your habitual self-description. Make one phone call you have been avoiding. Take one step toward one thing that genuinely excites you. Let go of one relationship that has been draining your signal. Small changes in frequency, sustained over time, produce enormous changes in reality. You are not the person who started listening to this audiobook. Something has shifted. Even if you cannot name it, even if you do not fully believe everything that has been said. Something has moved in the architecture of your thinking, made a new room, cracked a window that was previously sealed. That movement is real. Honor it. The universe is not a distant, indifferent force that you must somehow impress or convince. It is the medium in which you exist, responsive, intelligent, extraordinarily attentive to the specific, unique, irreplaceable frequency of your consciousness. You are already in conversation with it. You have always been in conversation with it. The only question was whether you knew. Now you know. Go! Create. Love. Serve. Pay attention. Trust the signal. Walk through the fear. Your life is waiting. Not out there, somewhere in the future, after you have earned it. Here. Now. Already. Epilogue. A note to the listener. Everything you heard in this audiobook is an invitation, not a decree. Take what resonates. Leave what doesn't. Come back to what confuses you. Confusion is often the leading edge of understanding. But above all, Do not simply consume this as content. The universe did not choreograph the extraordinary series of events that brought these words to your ears so that you could add them to a list of interesting things you have heard. Something in you recognized this material. Something said, yes, listen. Honor that yes. Whatever it is in your life that this listening has illuminated, whatever quiet knowing has grown a little louder, whatever forgotten dream has stirred, whatever tired pattern you are now just slightly more ready to release, that is the real message. That is the universe speaking directly to you through these words in this moment. Do not ignore it. We will see each other in the mirror.